All right. Now I handed out that initial sheet. Who knew most of them? Honestly, why?
Because I see you everywhere.
Okay. And how many of those do you actually use?
4.
4. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone use more than 4? Which ones do you use? Now you got a lot of them, so I think you'll. How many did you not get?
I missed 5 of them, but I got, and it's only like her, it's not because I use them, it's because I see them all the time, but I use 4.
Okay. How about you?
I use 4.
What's 4 do you use?
Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and then my sisters send me Snapchats constantly. But I always
Okay.
respond with texts because I'm not sending them.
Yeah, exactly.
myself.
Okay. Anyone rarely use any of them?
I barely use Facebook.
JC, Justine, what do you use?
I use YouTube and Pinterest.
Oh, yeah, and YouTube.
Okay. Okay. Well, as we get through here, and really this is I think this is a really wonderful topic, just because what ends up happening as we kind of move forward into this technological era, what we're looking at is more and more people are using all these different sites, posting a lot of different things, viewing a lot of different things. So there's a lot of information out there and a lot of our personal information sitting out there also. So it's real important. So when we go through here, we're going to kind of look at like positive and negative effects of social media, and then we're going to kind of roll into kind of what are some of the key things you need to kind of understand. Now, I look at social media as connected. Now, I got to be honest with you. I'm 46 years of age, right? So I'm kind of an older guy, and I remember growing up, the only way you contacted people or connected with people was how? You picked up a phone, and literally my parents, with 8 kids in my family, I had like a 2-minute allowable time on the phone. How else?
Tin cans.
Yeah?
Great.
In person.
In person, right? You made a little friends in the neighborhood, and that's what you end up doing. I joined the military very early on after I graduated high school, and I went away, and I grew up in Alaska. How do you think I made contact with my mom and dad?
Letters.
Yeah. Letters is one, phone calls are the other. Like, and how many people were really good at writing letters? One, right? Honestly, I can honestly say that if I talked to my mom and dad, I literally would probably talk to them once a year on the phone right around the holidays. It was normally Christmas. And then you'd be lucky you get a letter from me. And I have to be really, really lonely to write a letter, right? And that's the way we connected. Well, it's really funny. I'm living down here in Joplin, Missouri. My mom and dad still live in Alaska. My little brother is living in Japan right now. He went over there years ago to mountain bike race, and he's teaching English to the Japanese students, right? And I'll be honest with you, with technology and social media, it's like I'm still connected. Like my brother calls me every day onto my iPad to see what's going on, right? I'm able to get on Facebook and see what him and his wife are doing, right? My parents are constantly posting stuff. A lot of it's kind of, they're getting up there in age, so a lot of what they post I'm not kind of okay with, but what ends up happening is that connection is still rolling on. So if you have to think about it, do you guys post a lot? Do you put a lot of information out there? Do you connect with people through social media?
I do.
You do.
I do at least once a day. But I have family clear across the country. My parents are in Colorado. Some of my family's in California. So, and then like my parents were in an accident in December, and so nobody really knew what was going on. So I'd have to post updates, and I do post almost daily. Just nonsense stuff, just kind of stuff about school, what's going on, but.
Good.
I actually don't post very much anymore. I got into a habit of where I was posting all the negative things in my life, and I decided it wasn't presenting a very good picture of myself. So the only time, I'm on Facebook all the time, checking up on what my family and friends are doing, but I post very irregularly and only post anymore like the positive things and the exciting things, or about my daughter.
So you learn a little self-discipline.
Yeah.
Like if you go to my Facebook page, I think I posted about the Super Bowl because I'm a big Seattle Seahawks fan, right? And the rest of my posts are all about my little boy, right? The little prince. Every one of my pictures on there has something to do with Jace, and that's really for my family. So I kind of did the same thing, but I did go through a period where, oh my gosh, I was on there non-stop, and with that, it can do a lot of different things. Now, as we went through here, what is Facebook used for? Yeah, just keeping in touch. Basically, we're posting, what are we posting on normally on Facebook?
Anything.
Yeah, so we're posting a lot of different things, our views, our thoughts. We're doing a little bit of video clips probably, and we're probably going to use what other site if we're posting videos on Facebook?
YouTube.
Probably using YouTube. So if you notice, a lot of these social medias overlap and overconnect, right? What is Flickr?
Isn't it pictures?
Yeah, it's little pictures, short little videos that kind of go on there. Kind of very similar to Instagram and Snapchat. What ends up happening, but those particular things is there's just this ability to it, right? Stay connected. So what's Instagram and Snapchat? What's the whole purpose of that? Anyone know?
Some pictures of what you're doing right then.
Exactly, and very, very quickly, and they don't stay long, right? So that's kind of the innocence about it, and that's also kind of the demon piece to it, which is like I'm gonna post this picture and it's only gonna last like 10 seconds, so I can really almost post whatever I want because it's gonna disappear very, very quickly, right? And what we found about the internet, nothing really goes away, right? What's LinkedIn?
It's a professional networking site.
Yeah, right. You know, I just retired last year from the military, and this was one of the big things they pushed. Because what ends up happening, LinkedIn becomes the professional Facebook, is really ultimately what it is. It's an opportunity to put your information, your qualities, your specifics. So a lot of you, as you get closer to graduating from college, and a lot of you, as you're looking for other jobs, really what it ultimately comes down to, being on LinkedIn is very important, because what ends up happening is job people looked on there. You know, the whole idea of like Facebook and everything else is making friends, making more friends, connecting to friends' friends. What ends up happening, LinkedIn utilizes that very, very well, because what that does is the more that you get connected to, the more the opportunity you have to, you know, maybe get that opportunity that you didn't know that was out there, right? So that's important. How about Pinterest? Right here. Justine, what's Pinterest?
Just sharing of ideas and like being creative. Like I use it for my son's birthday party. Like I get ideas on like what I
Okay.
can do, and then you can put like tutorials on there.
Okay. Yeah, people swear by Pinterest. Like people go on there and get recipes from Pinterest, right? It's like, it is the thing. Now I tried to do Pinterest, I just don't understand it yet, you know? But I do think it'd be really good because I'm not a very good cook, so it'd be nice to have a recipe I could kind of go to. But really, that's what Pinterest does. I mean, people will do like, oh, they're remodeling their house and they're different, what's that word, feng shui? You know, different colors and space, and all of a sudden people just get ideas, and from those ideas, something's created, and those pictures go on, and people just kind of recirculate that, right? It becomes very, very powerful. And actually, I can see the usefulness of it, because back in the old days, you just kind of went in and did what you done, right? As you go down, Snapchat is one of just very much like Instagram. Twitter, what's the importance of Twitter? I never understood Twitter a whole lot. Now, you can follow a lot of people. But Twitter's one of those things that you make a little quick little post, you post on there if you got people follow and they see it and stuff along those lines. Do you use Twitter, Lucas? See, I don't use Twitter. I tried it but I just never seen, like, no one responded to me. Like, maybe my stuff wasn't very interesting, but I don't know. But it's little tweets, you know, and what they do is that you just post on there and then you eventually get things to follow. I think the one thing I followed while I was on Twitter was Mizzou football is really what I did on there. And I find that now, even though I haven't used it in 2 years, I still get Gary Pinkel, the head coach of Mizzou, posting something on Twitter that shows up on my phone that pops up that you got a Twitter, you got a tweet or something like that, right? But it's just opportunities, once again, passing in information, kind of connecting. As you go through, who does Vine? Who knows what Vine is? Tell me about Vine.
I only know what Vine is because of my kids. They would constantly come home and say, "Hey, Mom, you gotta check out this Vine." Well, they're like YouTube videos, but they're smaller chunks, like 10 seconds or less, or sometimes a little bit more. But anyways, people across the country, they are all over the world, they just post stuff, kids dancing in the kitchen with his cat, and you know, and then it just kind of goes viral and everybody likes it.
Yeah.
It's the same as YouTube, just smaller pieces, I think.
Yeah. And you know, and my daughter, she's 19 years old, she loves Vine. Like, for some reason, she's on Vine all the time and trying to post things on Vine all the time. You know, this one here really, you know, I put that one on there. Really, it's just, you know, once again, when I pulled up off Google, what is the 15 most popular, you know, social media sites, really what it comes down to is that's a Russian, pretty much, Facebook. And it's just extending across Europe, right? So it's just, as you can see, everybody's kind of getting on with this. YouTube's real important because I love posting videos, right? I mean, a lot of times I take all my little pictures and videos of my son, and then I go on my little Mac computer and I put it in a little iMovie, and then I upload it to, and I drop it on my Facebook so my mom and dad can have it, right? I mean, so it's really, really powerful to kind of pass that. Tag, what's tag? Now I'm going to read you what tag is because I didn't really know what tag was either, but for some reason it showed up on there, right? So if you look at tag, tag is basically, it was founded in 2004. It allows members to create profiles, play games, it shares tags, and basically had a virtual economy in it, right? So basically what it is, you can share games among other people on there, and what ends up happening is, for some reason, people must play a lot of games because it became a very, very popular site. And as you go down, Google Plus, as you know, Google's kind of taken over the world. And, they're just at now trying to do a little bit more Facebook stuff, that kind of stuff, trying to move in that realm. Classmates, if you look at Classmates, is what ends up happening is, it's just really about, it started out at that old time where you could actually find your classmates in school, and then you could reconnect with people from high school, right? It's just kind of morphed and really kind of moved into it. But all of it, kind of, if you look at it, is really just all about connecting and sharing. Now, there's some wonderful positives to social media, right? Right? The first one is social interacting and networking. And I always like to share the story. I was in my retirement brief, so I had to do a week of resume writing, interview writing, the whole 9 yards before they would allow me to retire. They made me take this class, right? And I'm sitting next to this guy that does software, right? I'm a mental health guy, right? I had no idea about internet software, anything along those lines. And one of the things they made us do was they made us create a LinkedIn account. So while I'm on there doing my LinkedIn account, the guy sitting next to me is like, okay, hey, who do you know? So I'm going through the list, and I don't really know a lot of people. So I'm going through, and all of a sudden, my ex-wife's husband is on there because he's an HR guy, right? So he hires people. So I end up, going in there, and he ended up becoming one of my, connections on LinkedIn. Well, the funny thing of it was he's a computer HR guy. The guy next to me actually connected with me, and they end up hooking up for him to get a job after he retired, right? So very, very incredible how it happens. Like, I didn't know this guy. We just met in a classroom. He connected to my LinkedIn, connected to my second, my connection, and here this guy gets a job, right? So it's really how this networking process kicks in, because really, nowadays I like to really, my dad used to kind of preach to me that, Mark, if you just worked hard, you will get jobs and you'll advance, right? I bought into that my whole entire life. Is that true? Not necessarily 100% anymore. What ends up happening is this right here becomes huge. A lot of times, people that get hired for jobs aren't even the most qualified, or not even the best candidate that goes for the job. Really, they're the ones that are kind of locked in and networked, right? So basically, some positives is you can actually really meet a lot of people, and with that, opportunities can arise, right? There's nothing better than being in college. I think, I'm sitting in graduate school right now, and I think it's the coolest thing in the world. But I'll tell you, when you get done with college and you go to move on, there's nothing like having many opportunities to be able to use your degree and make money for yourself, right? And one of the big ways to do it, if you don't like social media, you might look into just trying to figure out, how do I network to be able to set myself up to do well? The other thing is information seeking, right? There's nothing like, jumping online and going, my son, I'll give you an example. My son last night brought home this worksheet that you had all these different type of blocks together, and then you had which blocks needed to form this particular block design. And I had no clue. I got to touch it. But you want to know something? It was real nice to jump on Google, go to block design, and all of a sudden I'm able to kind of play around with blocks to help my son with his homework. Because before I would have said, son, just do it yourself. It's better that you do it, right? Not want to embarrass myself that I didn't know, right? So information is real important. Passing time, right? I'm not sure about you guys, but I kind of get home from work or school, and I open up my iPad, I sit on the couch for a minute, and I just pass time, right? Who in here has an iPad or a tablet of some kind, right? How do you use it? Where's it at normally in your house or when you're at home?
Plugged in on
Okay.
my desk.
Okay, so you got it on the desk. You do a little better than I do because mine's sitting right on my couch. So you want to know something? I waste a lot of time But it does. It is really nice because these two things kind of go together, right? It gives me an opportunity to pass a little time. It gives me an opportunity to relax a little bit. Like, the other thing is entertainment. Because if you look at YouTube, you can watch videos. If you watch, Vine, you can go see the squirrel that dances on there or flies the airplane. Those are all kind of funny things, right? If you're a parent, it's really nice to go back and look at photos of your children. Was 10 years ago. I posted on Facebook this weekend, my son turned 10. So here's a picture of him now looking all kind of grown up in his little suit and jacket that he had on for church. And then here's a picture of him with, 2 teeth missing and him pulling on another one, right? From when he was 3 years old. It's really nice. It's very entertaining. The other positive social media is expressions of opinions. Sometimes I think that also could be a very negative, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we move on. But there's nothing like to be able to have your voice heard, right? How many people in here post their opinions sometimes on Facebook or other social media sites? Anyone? Do you?
Sometimes.
What do you normally post? What kind of fires you up that gets you to post your thoughts?
I don't know, just things I see other people post sometimes. I don't post very often.
Okay.
I don't know.
I always find it amazing because I like to go to like different news outlets, their little websites, and what ends up happening is going always down to the comments down the bottom because you got two differing sides, and at first it starts off very cordial, right? Very nice, like, oh, I disagree with you, and then somewhere down the line we're name calling. It's like we're in kindergarten all over again. But what it is, it gives us an opportunity to express ourselves. Right? Our opinions, our thoughts, our views, and we can put it out there for the whole world to see. And you want to know something? No one else is looking at me directly to tell me I'm wrong. Right? Kind of nice. Things to talk about. Bottom line is, I think nothing else is, when I go on social media, I skim down to see what my friends are doing, and all of a sudden there is something there that I have not read or seen, and it kind of just gives me something else to talk about or look at. Right? And convenience. Man, come on now. I mean, like I go back looking at the letter days when that's the only way you could do things. I go back to if I wanted to learn about my sporting team, I had to wait for Sunday because that's when the nice article in the paper came out. And if your parents or if my parents actually had the paper come on Sunday, right? Nowadays, man, it's so convenient. And then as you go through sharing of information and kind of really knowing of others, right? Like so I can put my thoughts, my views, my things on there. And really, I can get to know other people for what they give me, right? Once again, I think there's two sets of people out there. One that has this incredible life on Facebook, or some of the other social media, and some of the other ones that spend a lot of time complaining or having really a negative view. But those are things. But there's some real positives to social media. So one of the things that hopefully you get out of this class is I want you to kind of utilize it. It is the move in the future. It is the ability to get jobs. It is the opportunity to connect with other people, and you don't know how that's going to benefit you in the future, right? Not a lot of negatives. Like I was we started talking a little bit earlier, but the UK had a study basically on relationships, and it said 1/3 of all divorces or couples applying for a divorce, 1/3 of them mentioned Facebook, right? How's that possible? How does Facebook break up relationships?
Well, you find your ex-girlfriend from 10 years ago, and she's looking gorgeous, and everything looks great, and you and your wife are always fighting, or husband, and so you start talking, and then she's sympathetic to your plight, and she's single, and
Yeah.
there you go.
It's really easy. Like it's a path that you start that you don't realize how it's going to go. But I can see how that can move very quickly to, look, I'm not in love anymore. I'm ready to go. See you later. Right? Very easy. But and so what they're doing is you can see a lot more studies looking at how social media is kind of connected because it is. You're right. You move away, but you're on social media and you found your ex-boyfriend that you really, really like, but due to school and maturity and everything else, you moved in different directions. Then all of a sudden you have this opportunity to reconnect, right? Kind of powerful. Cyberbullying, right? Now, Miles, he's 4, gonna be 4, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jason's 10, and me and Jason, I'm kind of a video game junkie, right? So I got my little Xbox One, and bottom line's got the little headset, and I can talk on there and tell how all the little kids are not doing very good, and they need to step up their game. But I let my son play it a little bit, and my son at first wasn't very good, and I kind of left the room, and I was kind of doing laundry and some other things, and I came back in, and my son's literally getting cussed out. Like literally getting cussed. I had to learn to find, how do I mute all of them, so he can't hear it and still enjoy the game. Because at that point, he became very self-conscious about not being very good and not wanting to play and stuff along those lines. Now, you see it all the time. As you go in and post a view on Facebook or post a view on some social media site or send a picture, and nowadays you can get beat up very, very badly by other people. Because it's safe, right? I mean, back in the day, you insulted me, we were kind of face to face, there might be a disagreement, we got to figure that out, right? Nowadays, you can have someone 5 countries over kind of say something to you and don't really care about how they're going to speak to you, right? So cyberbullying is very, very, and then we got a kind of a false sense of connection. I think that's probably my little brother from Japan. But a false sense of connection. A lot of times what ends up, some say that the connection on Facebook, or the connection on social media is sometimes false. Why is that?
Because you're not really connecting. I mean, not face to face, not like you really should. While it kind of helps with your social needs as a human being, it's not the same.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of really funny because, I'm not a clean freak at all. Like, if you go to my house, it's kind of, things are kind of a little untidy, to be honest with you. But if I was really out in the dating game, I could post pictures of a very clean house, right? I could present all my best qualities, right? And you're not getting to see, or we're really kind of connecting in that way. And I'm just presenting to you how I want to be seen, right? Or how they want to be seen, how you want to see them. Like, oh man, their life is perfect, they're doing wonderful. And so what ends up happening, we start connecting with that. And in reality, we all got flaws, right? So there's not that real connecting, like you meet somebody on the playground or you meet someone at the coffee shop and you guys carry on a conversation, they get to see you for who you are in your interaction, and they connect you that way. There's a lot of false connection that actually go on there. The other thing is decreased productivity. I was looking at a site today, and I think it was like 22 or $2.2 billion lost every year by different companies, or I think in the UK they showed it $2.2 billion. I'll have to get a better quote on that, but lose because of social media. Why?
Your phone's in your pocket, you just pull it out if you're bored, and you're like,
Yeah,
there's an hour. You're like, oh crap.
Prime example.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And me, I'm a little ADD, so what ends up happening is if you stop my train of thought or stop my movement or my productivity, I'm done for at least 30 minutes. So if at work, I'm sitting at work and my little brother calls me FaceTime, literally, and I talk to him for like 30 seconds, I'm probably done for another 30 minutes till I can get back on track to what I need to do. Now imagine those folks that sit on Facebook, have their Facebook up all day long. Imagine the time. I mean, just think about it. An 8-hour day, how much time is lost on social media of some kind, right? And then privacy, right? We like to think that what goes on the internet is kind of safe and private, but what we know is people lose their identity every day because of the internet. We know that as you put stuff on there, other people find out, or friends of their friends of their friends that is looking at their page finds out about you, right? We know that's not, one of those things that is really very private. The other thing is misinformation, right? I don't know how many times I've looked at certain things on the internet and went through there and said, okay, gosh, that's the truth. And then someone posts below a competing article that says this isn't the truth, right? There's so much misinformation on there. There was a study at Ohio State that they were looking at, and one of the things that they focused on was, how do we form our opinions or our thoughts on what's true and false? And what they said is, they could give you a false article now, correct it in an hour, and give you a test, correct it in an hour, give you the same test, and only 86% would get that right answer after they corrected you. After a week, the numbers drop. If they don't ever recorrect, if they don't ever kind of redo that, what thoughts do we have? The misinformation. So a lot of times, we're regurgitating information that's not very accurate. When I put that up there, I was like, I wonder how many of my statistics were actually correct, right? So as you go through there, a lot of misinformation. They also found that for some kids, there's the thunder. For kids, they get lower grades if they spend a lot of time on them, right? Now, they did find that it does work for the students that use social media to pass project information, set up meetings along those lines. But what they do find is folks that kind of just use it for the social media aspect of it have lower grades. And almost a full point, from a 3.8 to a 2.8. We're looking at grade average. So as you become parents or as you're in school, the question is how much social media you do. And just changing that may increase your grade. right? Negative health consequences. Why is that?
You're more sedentary. Spend
Yeah.
more time on the
You
computer,
don't
on your
Facebook
phone,
on
you're
the
not
treadmill.
out doing stuff.
Exactly. I do not, you're exactly right. I do not Facebook on the treadmill. I find I'm on my couch and I just feel my rear just kind of spread out, right? It's just getting bigger as we sit, right? Because what ends up happening is, oh, we're on here, and what turns into 2 minutes turns into 5 minutes, turns into 30 minutes, then turns into an hour. And pretty soon it's bedtime and I've not done anything that I wanted to do. I didn't walk. I didn't go out and work on the yard. I didn't go run. I didn't make myself to the gym. None of that, right? So if you can imagine if this year kind of as I get older, probably blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, all that stuff kind of plays into that, right? So it's very easy to kind of look at that. Isolation. Another thing, right? If you look at kids nowadays, they can have a whole set of friends someplace else, right? But never leave their bedroom, right? It's kind of sad. Now, on the flip side is if you've got like a social phobia or you have a hard time interacting with people, it does get you out a little bit, but it still isolates you, right? So the challenge is, how do we kind of change that, right? And the last one's criminal activity. One of the ones I kind of liked was it said like 83% of burglars use social media to target their houses. Why?
Going on vacation.
You put all your information on there.
When you're going on vacation.
Yeah. My friends they went to the Keys over the last week, right? And there was like 90 pictures of them at the Keys. I mean, I got pictures of them sitting there taking pictures of their feet by the sand. I have no idea why they posted it. But if I was a burglar, I would probably say, this makes sense to me. They're out of town. They're still out of town. Let me break into this house, right? So it becomes real easy to kind of do that. So there's some negatives. So as we look at this, there's positives and negatives. But how do we kind of look at how do we interact with social media to kind of benefit us, right? It says time decided who will meet in life. Your heart decides who you want in your life, and your behavior decides who stays in your life, right? And that not only just is true for interaction, but it's also true for social media. It's real easy to post some things for people to say, I really just don't like you very much, right? Or I don't like your thought process, or I don't like how you do things. So it becomes real important to kind of look at this. How do we connect, right? Number one, professional behaviors. People are viewing your activity, right? People are on your page, right? And 43% from the stat I got, 43% of the employers now are checking your social media before they hire you, right? What are they looking for, do you think?
Well, there was a nurse who didn't get a job at Mercy because they went to her Facebook page, and when she went in for her interview, she covered herself up. She didn't have tattoos that they saw, but then when they went to her Facebook page, she was entirely tatted up, and they wouldn't hire her.
Yeah, right? Imagine Ferguson, right? You know, a lot of people believe one side, a lot of people believe the other side, just clashing view, and people are posted left and right, right? Now, if you're an employer and you've got this strong opinion on it, on one side or the other, on certain hot topics that are going on in our country, or what ends up happening is, do we want to risk that, right? So it becomes, people are viewing how you are. The other thing is, sometimes you take friends, right? You'll get people on there and say, hey, look, you know, I'm a friend of this person, and all of a sudden the first thing they do is go where? Yeah, but where do they go on Facebook if they're going to look at you? Yeah, they're going to look at profiles, and they're going to their pics. I actually friended someone I didn't know very well, but, you know, it was a friend of my parents' family, and all of a sudden I got 9 likes on my pictures, right? Like, I didn't really kind of expect you to go in and start stalking my pictures, right? So people are viewing it. Now, I felt good because some of the pictures were good pictures, and, you know, I appreciate them liking them. But what ends up happening is people are viewing your activity, right? Be careful complaining, kind of like what you said, right? You got folks out there right now that meant everything on there is negative. The government, this, that. Like right now, my dad is 79, he's going on 80 years old, got COPD, his health is really bad, he's kind of limited now on what he can do because he gets so out of breath and everything else. This guy is angry, right? Everything he posts is the government this, the government that, they're taking this, they're taking that, and it's all negative information. Now, if I was an employer and I have all my wonderful employees in here and I'm going on your Facebook page just because you decided to friend me for some reason, right? And you're complaining about work or complaining about people at your work, I'm going to have some issues, right? So be real careful of making sure that when you're on there, you're posting positive comments or comments that, you know, I mean, I'm not saying don't go on there and, you know, have a bad day. But what I am saying is be careful what the trend is. You know, the trend needs to be you kind of being solution focused, you being out here a little bit of seeing where your life's going, rather than it just being an opportunity just to kind of vent your energy, right? Be mindful of your writing style. Now I am horrible, right? I am horrible, horrible, horrible. Like I actually write now like I text. Like I use you for you. Like I don't really write you out anymore. And there, I think I will use like a TH and an R, you know, I mean, and when I get on Facebook, kind of that's how I write too, right? Because I've gotten so used to trying to text really quick. Now, if someone goes in and looks at my Facebook page, what are they going to think?
And it,
Yeah, I'm not very smart. I don't care what the degree says. The first thing they're going to do is look at my degrees and figure out how many of them were online, right? And to see if the university's accredited, right? So what ends up happening is be real careful with your writing style, how you put yourself out there, how you spell, how you use things. Because what ends up happening is, and especially like if you're using cuss words nonstop, does somebody like an employer or someone want that in their lives, right? So what photos do you post? Right? That becomes a pretty crazy thing, right? People nowadays, I'm gonna be honest with you, I have half of my family I would say is pretty much ghetto, right? They are a little out there, right? And I got a niece that I'm gonna tell you, oh my gosh, I had to defriend her on Facebook. And I love family, but I had to defriend her because she would post the worst pictures I've ever seen in my life. Like she would just post things that I went, one is as an uncle, I don't want to see that. And two is, I really don't want my viewers seeing that. Like the people that are my friends, it's showing up on my line, right? So what ends up happening, just really bad stuff. So you got to be really careful what you post for your photos, because one thing is, some of them are really bad, could be really bad. The other is, people are viewing them, right? So be real careful of that. Like if you're really going out there looking for a great job and you're doing this, but then you post that one weekend where you went to Mexico and you're completely drunk and you're riding the donkey out on the, you know, whatever, you know, what ends up happening is people see those and they're going to make an impression of you, right? And and some of the things that I always like to say that I like to control things. So how do I control social media? And one of the great ways is I can control what I post and I can control what I put out there, right? Likes and reposting, right? You know, how many people will go on and like stuff on Facebook or different posts? What do you normally like? I mean, what's kind of your thing that you like to kind of look for when you're on social media?
I don't know, I don't really look for anything, I just
Okay.
happen upon friends'
Well,
posts.
give me an example of one thing you liked in the last week.
Band that's playing in Joplin, I don't know.
Okay. Because a lot of people will go on and they'll like a lot of different things. And then sometimes people will repost stuff. And I always say be careful, because when you repost, what ends up happening is all the other comments from the original one shows up, and that could be representing you. And then if you like some things that not necessarily, like you didn't really make a comment, but you just like it, people can see that also. And if it's controversial stuff, people can choose how they interact with you from that. So it becomes real important how you like or repost on those things. What do your friends post? Because here's the other thing is, man, be careful. It's kind of like, what's that saying that mom or dad used to always say about your friends? Or the people you bring in your life? Anyone know? Like, your behavior as an example, your friends, or something along those lines, or, I forget the actual saying. But what ends up happening is, you know, in the neighborhood it was real easy. I got 2 or 3 friends. How many friends do you have on Facebook?
100 more.
100 or more, right? How many you got? Do you do Facebook? How many friends you got? You're popular, aren't you?
I have 450 someone.
Anyone top that? How many you got?
Over 600.
Wow.
I went to a big high school.
No.
I was homeschooled.
But look at this. So what ends up happening is, you know, in a regular neighborhood, if social media wasn't around and if technology hadn't advanced quite the way that it did, we would be in a position where we'd have this pocket of friends. We would have weeded out the bad ones. We're the ones that we really don't want in our lives, knowing much about us, and we would probably get down to a core group of people. But with social media, now